Hello, everyone. What's up? Welcome to the Truth Show. How you doing? Tonight, Brains Food is about where humans really come from, not the TikTok version, not the conspiracy version, but the real story of human origins. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Broken down in simple human language. We're talking about four groups of people constantly mixed together. We're talking about Homo sapiens, modern humans, Neanderthals, extinct humans from Europe and Asia, Denisovans, extinct humans from Asia, Nephilims, a mythological beings from ancient texts. And we're going to separate science, myth, and misunderstanding so you can see the truth clearly. And just to give a disclaimer here, this is educational and a symbolic conversation. It's all alleged for entertainment and learning purposes only. I'm not claiming scientific authority. I'm breaking it down in plain language so we can understand the stories we're told about our origins. Okay? And with that said, here are some more warnings for you. Please note that this is all alleged. I've never met any of these people. I've deeply researched all of my information. This is a trigger warning. In this video, I may be talking about or showing sensitive material about some subjects or topics that may be disturbing or upsetting or may bring forth some troubling memories, as you read in the description or title. With that said, either end the video now or brace yourself. Aside from that, enjoy. All right, fantastic. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the show here. All right, let's start with the group people forget to mention called Homo sapiens. They are modern humans. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa or maybe America still remain to be proven around 300,000 years ago. That means the oldest human DNA on Earth is African. All melanated humans alive today descend from African or Black ancestors. Every lineage outside Africa came from African or Black migrants. Race did not exist yet. At the time, it was only melanated individuals. This is why Albert Perry DNA was so important. His Y chromosome lineage was over 300,000 years old, older than anything found in Europe or Asia. It proved that Black/African DNA carries the deepest human history. This is not an opinion, this is anthropology. So that means Homo sapien evolved in Africa, or maybe America, still remain to be proven around 300,000 years ago, because there haven't been a lot of excavating or digging in America because so many restrictions. They won't allow anyone to do any digging, not in very many places in America. So we don't even know if America is the original land of Egypt. We really don't know anything. All we know is from text, and then we just try to prove whatever landscaping or geographical thing that we can prove it to. But believe it or not, we don't have any solidary proof, because with the federal government and how strategic and so tight they are, they won't allow us to do any digging in America, which freaking sucks, because we should be able to do that. That would definitely prove a lot of theories, you know what I'm saying? But again, they won't let us do that. So it is what it is. So with that said, let's move on to the next show. Here is some videos.
Anybody else notice that you can be 100% black, but you could never be 100% white? When I say black, I just mean Homo sapien. I just mean human. Black people African people are the only people in the world, in the entire world, that are 100% Homo sapiens, never mixed with any Neanderthal blood. This is the reason why if I take a DNA test or any other white person does, they are going to have a percentage of African in them. Now, if an Asian person or a Native American person takes a DNA test, it could just say 100% Asian, 100% Native American. But that's because DNA tests only go back a couple thousand years, which means two things. White people were black 2,000 years ago. We were African, and it wasn't that fucking long ago. And two, that means 2,000 years ago, there were Asian people. There were Native American people. We can prove that. But if you go back tens of thousands of years, if you go back even further, even they will have the common ancestor, which is the African. This is why I believe white supremacy is fucking stupid. You're proud of something that could never be 100% achieved. There's no such thing as a 100% pure blood European. Everybody was mixed with Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA, except for black people. African people are the only true humans in this world.
These two faces represent two different types of humans. One is Neanderthal, the other is Homo sapiens. They lived at the same time, on the same continent. Neanderthals were more robust, broader bodies, thicker bones, shorter limbs, a build often associated with cold climate adaptation. Homo sapiens were more gracile, longer limbs, lighter skeleton, narrower frame, a body suited for endurance and mobility across varied environments. Neanderthals had a long, low cranial vault, pronounced brow ridges, a projecting midface, and no prominent chin. Homo sapiens show a more globular skull, reduced brow ridges, a flatter face, and a distinct chin. Both groups produced sophisticated stone tools. Neanderthals used fire, processed materials like birch tar, and hunted large animals, often at close range. Homo sapiens also used fire for warmth, light, cooking, protection, and technological tasks. In some cases, they used it to heat-treat stone for tool production. Homo sapiens show, in many regions, greater variation in tools, more standardized production, and increasing use of long-range projectiles. Evidence suggests both groups engaged in symbolic behavior. Neanderthals used pigments and collected objects, interpreted as ornaments. Homo sapiens left a broader and more continuous record, including personal ornaments, engraved objects, and, in many regions, more extensive symbolic expression. Two human populations, overlapping in time, different in form and behavior. So why did Homo sapiens spread while Neanderthals disappeared? There are different interpretations. One view is that Homo sapiens formed broader social networks. Ideas and strategies could move between groups more efficiently. They also show, in many regions, greater variation and faster change in technology, along with increasing use of long-range hunting methods. Their body structure may have supported greater mobility across larger territories. Another view is that Neanderthals were highly adapted to the environments they lived in. Powerful bodies, efficient close-range hunting, long-term survival in Eurasia, but they may have lived in smaller, more isolated populations, making them more vulnerable to environmental change or competition. And there is another possibility. There was no clear winner. Some groups mixed, some populations were absorbed. So was Homo sapiens more advanced, or just better connected?
All right, fantastic. And make sure you guys go follow these people because their videos are very definitely insightful. Now, let's talk about Neanderthals. Now, because Neanderthals were allegedly, now this is all alleged, all alleged, all alleged. And I'm gonna get deep into why the specific race has not been verified. It's not. I get into that in a moment. Okay. Now, Neanderthals were allegedly Caucasian people. They were a group of non-melanated people who lived in colder climates and thrived in caves. History says they weren't a race, but DNA verified that most Caucasians descend from Neanderthals. They were later among the ancient human species of Homo sapiens. Okay. Now, they lived in Europe, Western Asia, Central Asia. They were shorter, stockier, cold adapted, extremely strong, and hairy all over. Now, modern humans interbred with Neanderthals. So today, Europeans have like 1 to 2%. This is now the study is not based on current DNA study with current modern day Caucasian people. So make sure you understand that, and I'll break it down in just a second. Europeans have 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. East Asians have 2 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. Africans have very little unless they, recent migration or integrating with other races or something like that. Now, Caucasians have this to be determined, to tell you why. You see, it's measured by ancient geography, not modern categories. See, that means they weren't testing like Caucasian white people. They were not testing Caucasians. They were not testing Europeans. They were testing where your ancestors migrated thousands of years ago. So they was just testing wherever they found in their region. It wasn't testing modern day Europeans or modern day Caucasians. So these statistics and percentages are not based on realistic facts and modern day today DNA. Okay. But considering the characteristics, considering the melanating, considering what we can view from our own viewpoint and from just modern day biological systems, we can definitely verify that most Caucasians are definitely descended from Neanderthal and basically cold climates, because they tend to move away from the sun because they're not melanated, and they tend to, well, you get the gist. You get the gist. Anyone who's melanated, their skin gets darker. Anyone who's not melanated, the skin grows redder, and then they can eventually die from being in the sun too much. So that's what that whole thing is coming from in terms of testing. So again, they're testing where your ancestors migrated thousands of years ago, and not where their DNA lies right now. The testing is not conclusive. Okay. And that's where the confusion comes from. So the numbers 1 to 2% averages are not absolutely true. This is part of the scientists that don't emphasize. Neanderthal DNA varies widely between individuals. Some Europeans have almost none. Some Asians have more. Some Middle Eastern groups have different patterns. Some results contradict each other depending on lab. Now, this does not mean Neanderthals were or were not a modern race despite evidence. Technically, race didn't exist at the time. Okay. It means Caucasian Europeans inherited DNA from cold climate human groups / Neanderthals, while Black African inherited DNA from original Homo Sapiens lineage and melanated people. Okay. Whichever climate is definitely more absorbed by the sun, because melanated people, Black people, colored people who has melanin, okay, they have to be more in the sun. The more they're away from the sun, the more their biological system grows to not adapted to, and then they can be vulnerable to diseases. And then their skin will start burning. But don't worry, once they start eating right and start embracing the sun more, they won't burn anymore. I don't know if a lot of them know that yet, but they should know that. The more you embrace the sun, if you're a melanated person, the more memories you start to remember, more your biological systems start to renew, and more you become revitalized and you become invigorated by the sun. For melanated people, okay? Cold climates thrives for Caucasian people. They thrive in cold climates. They become very strong. They become more alert. That's what they thrive at, okay? All right, so moving on to the next slideshow here. Okay, Denisovans. Now, these are the mysterious cousins. A lot of people people don't talk about Denisovans for some reason. I mean, I'm not going to even be seriously deceiving right now. I didn't even know a lot about them until I started doing this slideshow. So you and I are going to be learning fresh about these particular species together, okay? Because I didn't even know they even existed. I mean, I heard of their name in passing in terms of studies, but I never really did a whole show about them before. So we're going to learn about this together. Now, Denisovans were another Black ancient human species like the Neanderthals. They were like the cousins. They lived in Siberia, Mongolia, Southeast Asia. Their DNA is, believe it or not, they say their DNA is strongest in Melanesians. Now, Melanesians are, if you know who Melanesians are, those are the dark-skinned people with blonde hair. I was going to put a video up here, but I didn't put a video up here. But the Melanesians that I know, they're Black people with blonde hair. And their hair are not refined, curly, or kinky. They have wavy, curly hair. You know, some are kinky, some are wavy, curly. That's what I say. All, melanated people don't have kinky hair. But anyway, so they're, brown skin, dark skin, blonde hair people. Most of them are Melanesians. Indigenous Australian, they have strongest in that indigenous Australians. Those are the indigenous people, primarily the dark melanated people, despite what they like to say they are. And some Southeast Asian groups, those are the dark-skinned Asians, the melanated Asians. And the Denisovan DNA helps with the altitude adaptation, so they can definitely able to go to a higher adaptation in terms of altitude, as you can see here, okay? And they do have immunity, okay, and strength, that they're very strong. People call this Denisov, I'm sorry, let's go back here. People call Denisovans, they call them aliens because, put it like this, they barely have fossils. And their genetics unusual, and scientists can't seem to break them down or understand. At least we don't have the technology to understand them yet. Their traits seem superhuman because they have such superhuman strength. They heal very fast. They did find some of this DNA in some ancient Black people DNA, but they don't know how to recognize it. So they just pretty much adapted to the nearest DNA that's similar or like it, like AB or something like that, or whatever the case may be, because they're still trying to figure out what this other DNA is. So they just say, okay, it looks like this DNA type, so we're just gonna say this is the blood type that this is, because we haven't identified what this DNA is. I mean, that's what scientists people do, for real. So, but then the Denisovans were human, not extraterrestrial. At least that's what they say. But again, there's not very much information other than the fact they're very strong and they adaptability to the highest ground. I mean, they can go high without having to lose their breath, and they don't really have a lot of fossils, and they have crazy strength, like crazy strength. They are melanated people. A lot of them are blonde hair people, dark skin blonde hair people. Yeah, here are some videos.
Denisovans are a bit of a mystery, genetically distinct from both modern humans and Neanderthals. Their DNA tells us they branched off from Neanderthals around 400,000 years ago, enriching the narrative of the Pleistocene era's human saga. But when it comes to what they looked like, we're mostly in the dark. Our clues? Just a finger bone, a few teeth, and a piece of skull. Though these fragments are robust, they hint at Denisovans being well equipped for surviving the tough Pleistocene Asia. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The Denisovans didn't just keep to themselves, they left a mark on us modern humans. Certain groups today, especially in Asia and Oceania, carry Denisovan DNA. For instance, the indigenous people of Melanesia, including Papua New Guineans, have about 5% of their DNA from Denisovans. This reveals a history of ancient interbreeding that is more complex and common than we ever imagined.
Anatomically modern humans interbred with Neanderthals. You can't interbreed with another species. They clearly were human beings.
For years, Denisovans were one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. They were known from little more than a finger bone, a few teeth, and fragments. Then, in 2025, scientists identified the famous Harbin Dragon Man skull as Denisovan using ancient proteins and mitochondrial DNA. The skull is the longest known archaic human cranium ever discovered. It reveals a human with massive brow ridges, a broad face, and a brain comparable in size to both Neanderthals and modern humans. That discovery is only the beginning of a story that continues to reshape our understanding of human evolution.
Oh, yes, definitely. As you can see here, they haven't got any large substantial amount of information when it comes to Denisovans. Their case is very unique. No one knows a lot about them, unfortunately. But they are definitely studying more and more and more. And there is another fact. I did have a video actually that I want to show you guys. This is pertaining to, just give me a second here because I really want to show you guys this. I just made this video, and this video is literally proving the whole Black people monkey theory. Now, I already posted a video about this already, but I kind of want to go a little bit in deep dive in with it a little bit. So just give me a moment here, because I know there has been a huge theory about Black people evolving around monkeys, which is so not true, so fictitious.
Grand Rising family.
And we are definitely going to go ahead and just debunk that right now. Okay. I know some of you don't give two flying figs, but you know, if this was your race and they were calling you these little fictitious things, I'm assuming if you had the validation to prove that theory was untrue, you would do the same as well. Okay. So here's the video that I want to show you guys here. All right. So let me just play this video.
Here's a quick brain food fact. Most melanated people of African or Black descent naturally grow less body hair, especially on their backs. That's not random. That's heat adaptation from early Homo sapiens living in hot climates. Humans in colder and non-melanated regions evolve more body hair for insulation. Different environments, different adaptations. It's simple science. And here's the myth buster. Racist claims that compare Black people to monkeys fall apart immediately because monkeys and apes have more body hair, not less. Black African descended humans actually show advanced heat regulation adaptation, not animal similarity. Less hair equals climate evolution. More hair equals cold survival. Neither has anything to do with monkeys. Facts, people.
So yes, as you heard from that, Black people, melanated people have less body hair. For example, my husband and so far every man that I've known and seen, they don't have body hair on their backs. A lot of them don't have body hair on their backs. Some of them don't even have hair on their legs. They have just a little thick layer on their arms and maybe go down a little bit to their neck, but not all the way down. And the hair in their chest don't grow really thick like a crazy freaking animal or something. Black people don't have a large, vast amount of freaking hair, you know. So for them to be related to monkeys is just something that the racist regime did back in the ancient times to racially modify. They always used to switch up things. For example, they used to say Black people stink, and history proves that that was not true. The Moors went in and literally had to teach hygiene to the Caucasian Europeans. So that's definitely fictitious as well. And then there was theories about Black people weren't able to read. And then they said Black people were stupid. I mean, there was a lot of fictitious theories. So everything was literally flipped around. A lot of inventions that happened around the 40s, 50s, and 60s and leading to the 70s got seriously deleted and obliterated, like the making of the bed and the revolutionary of the kitchen appliances, the refrigerator. There was definitely some mobile inventions that was going on in terms of a lot of housekeeping stuff like strollers and mobile mobility that pretty much extricated trains, because a lot of those inventors got killed, around the 40s, 50s, and 60s and into the 70s, which is why they're not being duplicated now, because they killed the maker of those inventions. And I tell people, I said, if they haven't duplicated it and the descendants haven't duplicated it, the inventor just didn't stop. The inventor more than likely got killed. So a lot of those revolutionary inventions from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you see those videos and stuff, the inventors were Black and they killed the inventors, as they always do. Instead of allowing any race to revolutionize and move us to a higher way of living and an easier way of living, they get jealous and kill them. And now we're stuck back, 15, 20, 30 years. Meanwhile, China is revolutionary. It's like future down in China and Korea and all them other continents and countries. And we're still stuck in racist regime. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. Everyone else is moving up in technology, but we still got racist people preventing us from moving up. Why we just can't work together and move up and build a better, efficient world, Get farmers AI robots so they can, tend to their farming and stuff instead of getting humans doing hot, rugged stuff in the field. Get some AI robots or something and help them tend to the field. They do have those in other countries and continents, but, we have so many racist people here still stuck in 50, 60 years ago. We're never going to move forward until we definitely get rid of those people. We need to get rid of them and move on to the 21st century. Definitely. That's what we definitely need to do. Okay. Now let's move on to the Nephilim myth here. Now we shift from scientist mythology. Nephilim come from the ancient Hebrew text. They are described as giants, powerful beings, sons of gods, daughters of men. Different people interpret Nephilim differently. Fallen angels, hybrid beings, symbolic warnings, mythic archetypes. But here is the truth. Nephilims are mythological. Okay, they did not appear in DNA tests. They are not biological species. So they say that there has been some tests. Black people hold hybrid DNA. They said some Black people hold, or just melanated people in general, hold some hybrid DNA. But now this is just a theory. Let me go back. Oh, just a second here. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So this is just a theory. Please don't go attack me. Okay. They're saying that melanated Black people hold hybrid DNA, primarily because what they melanin and what it does when they're in the sun. And this is why they brainwash melanated people to not thrive and connect to the sun, because they don't want them to connect to the sun. So they just tell them the sun is not good for them. That's what they're saying. If they only knew the sun is very powerful. I mean, it keeps you from aging and things of that nature. But the sun's supposed to empower, but they keep people who are melanated so drugged and so fed up with lies about their race and their history. So they won't tap into that little hybrid DNA. So take a look at these clips.
They lied to you about the Great Flood. It wasn't just water. It was a mass extinction event for giants. And the wild claim? Their bodies didn't disappear. They hardened. The Great Flood researchers say mountains aren't rock. They're corpses. Cliffs that look like faces. Canyons shaped like rib cages. Hills that slump like fallen bodies. They say geology is just the cleanup story. Mud, pressure, time, boom, stone, and that pink Himalayan salt in your kitchen. They tell you it's ancient seabeds, but look at it. It looks like muscle. veins, tissue. The claim is it's crystallized flesh from whatever died in that flood. Why pink? Blood turns mineral red. Then there's Andrew Dawson. Guy films a massive humanoid silhouette on a mountain. Video goes viral. He goes back. Suddenly helicopters, restricted zones, a building where the figure stood. He posts one last warning, then dies. Natural causes. They say it's pareidolia, erosion, coincidence. But what if you're being trained not to see? Next time you look at a mountain, ask yourself, is this a landscape or a graveyard? Question everything. Trust no one.
The flowers, I sit for hours telling all the bluebirds, the bill and coo birds, pretty little baby, I'm so in love with you.
There were many black giant skeletons and mummies that were found in America. This secret is something they are so desperately trying to cover up and rewrite. Take a look at this clip.
Here are 5 things you didn't know about the most shocking discovery in American history. First, in the 1890s, Smithsonian expeditions uncovered 9-foot-tall black mummies buried in Egyptian-style sarcophagi inside American pyramid mounds from Illinois to Georgia. Second, these giant black pharaohs wore golden burial masks identical to those found in Egypt, but carbon dating proved they were thousands of years older than any Egyptian dynasty. Third, hieroglyphic inscriptions identified them as rulers of vast American territories, completely rewriting everything we thought we knew about this continent's original inhabitants. Fourth, their burial chambers contained advanced astronomical instruments that surpassed Egyptian technology, suggesting these weren't primitive people, but sophisticated civilizations. Fifth, federal officials immediately confiscated all remains and artifacts, and internal Smithsonian memos later revealed why. These giant black pharaohs were the original builders of both American and Egyptian pyramid civilizations. The truth they're hiding? Black people didn't come from Africa. Africans descended from the original black pharaohs of America.
Yes, that is definitely what's going on here. So all I want to say here is that we definitely need to learn about our history, and we need to rewrite everything, because what they're teaching in school is so fictitious, it's not even freaking funny. Okay, so let me just move on here to the next slide here. Okay, so why do people say alien DNA? Well, African DNA, African/Black DNA is extremely ancient. Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA is unusual, still being studied. Not sure if they're still studying, probably not. Some traits seem superhuman, believe it or not. Mythology fills scientific gaps. Humans crave supernatural origin stories. But scientifically, no human DNA has ever been proven extraterrestrial. Well, that's not true, because they don't know what's considered extraterrestrial. See, the scientific study is definitely limited. They have found DNA that they cannot understand, so they can't differentiate whether it's extraterrestrial or just DNA that has not been discovered here on Earth. And if it was extraterrestrial, and if a certain race is among this extraterrestrial DNA, they're not going to tell them. We already know what race that is. Okay, they're definitely not going to tell them, and not going to tell them how to activate it either. So the alien DNA myth comes from just what we're going to say in modern terms here is misunderstanding ancient human DNA, mixing mythology with genetics, confusing old with non-human, wanting a more dramatic origin story. So take a look at this video here, because there has been some studies. But again, they're not going to tell you there has been some studies, because they'll want a bunch of these races of people tapping into their inner power. You know, why would they tell them that?
So now that's one. We couldn't have came from the monkey because we never had the monkey blood. For two, white people have 4% Neanderthal DNA, and they're only 96% human being. Black people are 100% human being. We have no Neanderthal DNA. The Neanderthal DNA comes from the monkey and the canine. So we don't have any DNA tracing us back to monkey and canine. How could we have evolved from that? We know that all life comes from it and is sustained by that sun. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Because whether you want to call it Ra, the sun, they create another word for tomorrow. Guess what melanin is? Condensed sunlight. So everything created by the sun has melanin in it. Water even has melanin in it. Trees have melanin in it. Oxygen has melanin in it. Why is it important? Because the Caucasian is void of the melanin that we possess. We possess uromelanin and neuromelanin. And why is neuromelanin important? Because it has nerves. That's why it's called neuromelanin. And these nerves actually connect your thoughts to the creator. The Caucasian does not have neuromelanin because he's not a natural part of creation, and the creator does not share a communicative.
Damn, y'all annoying as hell. Stop running! Man, shut your ass up! It's over! It's over! Nah, now it's starting.
I know that is I know that is just a, AI video, but it's based on real facts. There has been some study of superhuman DNA found in Black people that can be activated by the sun. But a lot of them don't know that, and they're not going to tell you that, and then they're going to pump you with chemicals. Everyone has their power. I mean, Caucasians thrive their power from cold climates. They activate superhuman strength and extreme intelligence. We all have our superpowers, whether it's melanin or non-melanated. This is not a racial video. It's tapping into your inner power. Stop feeding yourself with these lies from the church and the government in general. So I say again, my people, Caucasians have superhuman strength as well. So does Black people, but the Caucasian strength comes from cold climates. They can adapt to cold climates a lot better than Black people can. We can eventually, but we rather not. But we will, but we rather not. But Caucasian people can. They adapt better. They develop this crazy superhuman strength. They're very intelligent, and a lot of their intelligence comes from cold climates. You know, that's how they ignite their superhuman strength. Ours come from the sun, theirs come from cold weather, you know. And all I'm saying is that if we work together, we can probably build empires, we can build futures, we can build technology, we can thrive so much faster. We can protect our children from perverts and pedos, but we're too busy fighting each other to even thrive to a greater world. We're too busy fighting each other. And that is something that needs to stop. Okay. All right, so let me just put it all together here. Let's make this simple. Homo sapiens, modern humans, origin Black/African, the oldest DNA on Earth. Neanderthals, extinct, origin Europe and Asia. That's the colder part of Europe and Asia. Modern humans interbred with them. Okay. Denisovans, still be determined who they are. Extinct humans. That's literally how they marked. The origins they're saying is Asia. DNA found in Black Melanesians and indigenous Australian groups. So a lot of indigenous melanated Australian groups thrive from that particular DNA of the Denisovans. That's what they're saying anyway. So Nephilim, supposed to be mythological beings, origin ancient texts, not biological, not genetic. They said Nephilims are the breeding that more than likely where the Anunnaki people had migrated with, but they still being determined of what the DNA of the Anunnaki is, because there's a lot of DNA in humans that they consider junk, that they don't have the technology to actually figure out what it is. I mean, they still trying to figure out how trees are able to hear and listen when they don't have the human organs of ears. See, there's a lot of things that we don't understand, but we just try to just jump it off like it's impossible. It's not impossible until we get the technology to understand it. So they're saying Nephilims are the DNA of Anunnaki, but they're still trying to determine what the DNA of Anunnaki is and how to determine if it's Nephilim in people's systems. See, so that's where the confusion is. Our science is way back, and if we can just work together, we probably can figure this out. We do need the Neanderthals, the Caucasian people, the Denisovans, which are the Malaysian people with curly, a lot of them have a lot of blonde hair, but just a lot of curly, wavy hair. There are kinky hair, but mainly just, like that. Believe it or not, Hispanic people, probably more than likely, and Indian people, those are the Indian people with the wavy hair, but there are Indian people with kinky hair as well. So Indian people are not defined by the texture of their hair. I just want to point that out here. Anyway, because the original Indian people did have kinky hair, and then it just migrated to straight hair. So there's no clear factor on what race is which, but they're just melanated people. Just say this melanated people just to give it a general perspective and how to categorize them. But a lot of Hispanic people, more than likely, and Italians who are extension of Hispanics and just want to be accepted by Caucasian community, they were rumored to have some Denisovans DNA in them as well. But that's just still to be determined. And again, Neanderthals thrive in colder climates. They're very strong. They're very intelligent. They're meant to lead. They are not very unit people. They just want to lead and take over because that's what their DNA thrives them to be. It just take over and take charge, kind of like what Caucasian people do now. And Black people, the melanated people, and Denisovans are known to use the earth for resources and teach and be humanitarians and blah, 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 blah. Pretty much what Black people are. And Caucasian people are meant to lead. That's what they were meant to lead. But, that way of thinking is not the way of living. That was back then. They were having that frame of mind. That's no longer accepted anymore. Okay. And then we have the Nephilim beings who were told to be very powerful. They were known as the Nephilim giants. They were very gigantic people. Um, and it's one thing that's really confusing about the Nephilim giants, because they said the Nephilims were mythological beings and they were in the origin ancient texts. They said there's no biological or genetic DNA, but that's because they don't understand it at this moment. But I'm just saying, if they were giants and they came down from wherever, let's just say they were origins from the Anunnaki, okay? And it was these 13-foot, 32-foot beings. How were they able? I mean, if we're thinking as today, modern day perspective, how can we say that they even integrated and cohabitated with normal height people when normal height people now, I mean, let's be realistic here, are not 32 feet, maybe the tallest, maybe 7, 8 feet. That is sick for a 32 foot giant to rape a 7 foot, a 5 foot woman. How are they, what can fit in a what? Wouldn't that kill them? So that's what I'm saying. I think we're thinking in today's perspective. I don't think the modern day humans were 5 feet or 6 feet. I think they were probably not as short as the Nephilim giants. I'm because you look at the ancient architects and the designs and walls. Humans back then were very, very tall. I think the modern day human was about 32 feet tall or 12 foot tall or something like that back in those days. Now that would make sense if you have these huge, gigantic 32 foot whatever giants come down, and humans back then were no shorter than like 12 feet, 15 feet, or 22 feet, or 36 feet, or whatever. And the Nephilims was a 56 feet, or where the fuck they were. But point is, they weren't that too far from each other. You know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering if we just thinking in today's perspective, because giants having sex with modern day humans, that's unless they were able to deform or reform, or I don't know, mutate themselves, transform themselves to a normal human height. I don't know. I never really looked at that whole little thing before, but that's the part that really didn't. I'm thinking, like, how were they able to have sex with modern day humans? I mean, they're, what should have killed them? So I think humans back then were a lot taller than they are right now. So getting back to this right here, okay. So that means the misunderstanding of ancient human DNA is definitely still misunderstood. The Nephilim beings were told to be very, very tall. You've seen the tall doors and stuff of that nature. Humans, let's just be realistic here, judged from ancient texts, were a lot taller than they are right now. For ancient giants to come down and have sex with humans, they couldn't have done that, and that's physically impossible. So we just got to stop thinking in today's terms, because remember, back then they were able to tap into their highest dimensions. We were only now to tap in like maybe 3D. Back then they were able to tap into like 60, 70, 8D, was 70 dimension. Which is how they were able to see other levels of existing that's walking among us that we're not able to see. Some people were able to see it, like mediums and psychics. But back then, our ancestors were able to tap into a lot more, dimensions they are right now. So think of that, okay? When you look at this next clip, humans were not 5, 6, 7 feet. They were probably 14 feet, 20 feet tall back then. The height started migrating as time went on. Okay, when he killed the giants with the flood, I think he made modern day humans in terms of DNA, because they're always fucking with our DNA, made them a lot shorter. That's why they were able to live like 500, 600 years old if you read ancient texts in the Bible. So I'm sure they messed with the height of people too at some point. Take a look at this clip. Like it looked like the sound didn't work on this one. Let me see if I can bring up the video. Always something, I tell you.
A fast
Okay, here's the video right here. I don't know why the sound didn't record. That sometimes happens when I try to download a video, the sound and record is so freaking annoying, I'm telling you.
Fascinating new study has just been published in which they sequence the genomes of modern-day Oceanians, a group that is very, very underrepresented in the genomic data, and their DNA unlocked a wealth of ancient DNA from another human species, the Denisovans. And I mean that. They found 505 million base pairs of previously unidentified archaic sequence and 3 times more Denisovans. A fascinating new study has just been published in which they sequence the genomes of modern-day Oceanians, a group that is very, very underrepresented in the genomic data, and their DNA unlocked a wealth of ancient DNA from another human species, the Denisovans. And I mean that. They found 505 million base pairs of previously unidentified archaic sequence and 3 times more Denisovan sequence than previous studies. For the study, they sequenced 177 high-coverage genomes from 12 diverse near-oceanic populations and analyzed them alongside 1,284 genomes from worldwide populations. Some important context here is that when these groups, when they settled this region, it was all a part of one large landmass that included Australia. It wasn't until closer to 10,000 years ago that the sea levels rose and split these populations. Current models suggest that Australia was actually settled by 2 groups that really arrived around the same time, a northern route and a southern route. These populations would be connected to that northern route. One interesting thing with this study is that they were able to find more evidence for something that has been being built upon with other evidence, and that's the idea there were 3 distinct groups of Denisovans that modern humans actually hybridized with. These weren't all that closely related. Not only did these findings strongly support that, they also strongly supported the idea that one of those encounters only seems to have happened with the ancestors of this group that would settle near. It makes it interesting to think about some of these Denisovans. There may have been a population out on an island along the way that this group encountered. They were also able to confirm that Oceania populations have the highest rates of admixture from archaic, now extinct human species, and they were able to show that the Sepik population, they actually have the most Denisovan DNA, 25 times more than the average population in East Asia. This population lives near the Sepik River in Papua New Guinea, and this is a lowland basin that's really isolated. So it's not that their ancestors hybridized with Denisovans more recently, it's that there has been less mixing of other populations since that hybridization, so it's been less watered out. Around 5,000 years ago, a group left Taiwan and began settling Oceania, that second wave, and this population, the Sepik population, they were less impacted by that because of their isolation. They did find evidence of adaptive introgression, which is it's a mechanism of evolution where you hybridize and then genes that the other population had evolved, like the Denisovans, as they were living out in this region for hundreds of thousands of years and adapting to it, those entered the Sapiens gene pool and natural selection acted on them. Most of those were connected to immunity, which makes sense. Things like malaria would be big drivers on natural selection as populations, especially low population size populations, are moving into these isolated tropical regions. But this right here, TRPS1, this one's interesting. This is a gene that's already been studied and it affects skeletal development, and it's been found under natural selection in Central African rainforest hunter-gatherers and highland Ecuadorians. We don't yet know exactly what that gene variant does, but they do mention one day we might, as the future of this field could involve genetically engineering organoids that allow us to test what some of these variants actually do. And that's something that's already been done a little bit with some Neanderthal brain organoids. I'll be sure to make a video about it if we ever make organoids that show us what this skeletal effect is. Make sure to follow if you want to continue learning about ancient humans, evolution, and just the story of life on Earth. A fascinating new study has just been published in which they sequence the genomes of
See, told you. Why would I lie to you? Of course, of course. Told you there has been study every day, and we can definitely learn more if we're willing to work together with any race and put your pride and race aside. Racism is stalling progress. Seriously, racism is stalling progress. All right, so let me just move on here. Okay. Now, the truth is this, okay? Let's just sum it the hell up. The truth is freaking this, okay? There are definitely many human species, okay? Humans are not children of aliens. At least we don't know. We are the children of many human species, many migrations, and many stories. African Black DNA carries the deepest roots. Neanderthal, Denisovans DNA carry ancient branches. Nephilim carry mythic meaning. And together they form the story of humanity, scientific, symbolic, and spiritual, DNA roots. So tonight we learned, okay, let's sum it up. You probably carry some of this ancient DNA, Neanderthal, maybe Denisovans. The Nephilim lived in story, not in your blood. Alien DNA is more like a mystery about imagination than actual lab results. Like are they really aliens? I mean, we heard they're from other worlds and things of that nature, but they lie to us so freaking much. They could be lying about that too. I mean, how true is that movie? What is it, Iron Man, or what's the name of that damn movie? I forgot his freaking name. With those superhuman beings and the dude with the knife hands. Wolverine. I don't remember the name of the movie. Anyway, that movie where they store these people with these crazy powers in some remote area in some crazy world in mountains or caves or whatever. Could that be true? I mean, I think someone linked a clip to me where they actually are taking kids who have superhuman DNA or DNA they don't understand or superhuman powers, and they storing them in this big building and studying them and things. I even hear that some famous cancer buildings who say these children have cancer, famous commercial, is literally just a huge scientific lab where they test these rare blood types for medicine, cosmetics, superhuman strength. I think one child went in there looking normal, coming out looking green because they drained him for all his potency in his blood. So they say these kids have cancer. This is all alleged when they don't have cancer, and they're just testing them for their own scientific, selfish, vanity, sick, perverted, freaking reasons. If I were you, ladies and gentlemen, I would definitely look into that, because that is definitely looking very suspicious to me. That's just something that came to me in the dream, that they're doing this to our kids, claiming they have cancer and they just have unique DNA. I'm just saying. Like, how do a kid get cancer? I'm sure they can give you some scientific and medical reason, but really, how do they get cancer? Sure. I bet they do so much blood drawing and crap and testing on these damn kids. It's really ridiculous. And then cosmetics come out, vaccines come out. I mean, seriously, you can't trust anybody these days. I'm telling you, they're all sick and vampires. So let's just be realistic here. We all probably carry some ancient DNA. Neanderthal, maybe this don't, because I'm mixed with a lot of different races. I'm sure I carry all the asses. And the Nephilim lived in story, not in your blood, so to speak, maybe. I don't know. Alien DNA is more about mystery and imagination than actual lab results. You are now less human because you carry ancient DNA, okay? You are more human because you carry the history of many worlds inside you. We all carry some elements of this world, regardless of race. It's not just Black people are more human, Caucasian people are more human. No, we are some kind of form of this world. We all carry our strengths and weaknesses, okay? This is true. So may this brain food help you see your body as a library, your DNA as a story, and your origins as something bigger than a textbook. And just to sum it up, we all carry it. Black people carry more Homo Sapiens than Denisovans DNA, okay, which thrives under the sun. Their superpower, so to speak, comes from the sun, which a lot of them don't even freaking know. Caucasian people get their superhuman strength from cold climates. when they're not around the sun. They're very intelligent. They're meant to lead. And they kind of carry that very, well, you already get there carrying the hell out of that now, okay? And I would say the Denisovans are primarily Hispanic people and Indian people as well. And these are Indian people wavy hair and not rooted Indian people with kinky hair. That's what I'm saying. Indian people are not derived from the hair texture. So a lot of Hispanics more than likely carry, and Italians who are extensions of Hispanics, they just like to separate themselves for whatever goofy reason that is. But anyway, Hispanics more than likely carry a lot of Denisovans DNA as well, which means they're more than likely very strong, very intelligent. Along with every race is very strong and intelligent when they're embracing their let's just say their fuel to ignite that superpower. Like melanated people, their superpower fuel is sun. Caucasian people is cold climates. Hispanic people is the sun as well, but also sometimes cold climates as well, but the sun as well. These are Indian people. We're saying some Indian people are like this, some Indian people are like this, some Indian people like this. A lot of, believe it or not, Hispanic people, Italian people do have Indian blood and black blood. Caucasian people don't really have a lot of black or any melanated people or anything of that nature because their superhuman strength is from the cold climate and away from the sun. So we all need to work together. If we have Caucasian people who get their strength from the colder climates, and then we have black people or melanated people who get their strength from the sun, you know how much progress we can do from working together, how much technology we can build, how many civilizations we can do, how much historical digging and discovery we can do if we can work together instead of racially modifying one another and separating one another. Because you have one race who get the superhuman strength from cold climates, and we have another race who get the superhuman strength from heat. Damn, we can be so freaking powerful here in America because this is the one land where so many different races are literally under the same world, so to speak. And what we're doing, we're wasting time by racially modifying one another and killing each other because of the color of our fucking skin. It's so freaking stupid. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Make sure you guys like. We all have our strength. We all have our weaknesses, and have a wonderful night. I'll speak to you guys tomorrow when I'm going to try to do an online live reading of what happened to Mitch McConnell. So stay tuned for tomorrow. Good night, you guys. Buenas noches. Bye.
Hey, Truth Seekers. I'm opening a limited number of prepaid reading bundles for anyone who wants deeper clarity and ongoing spiritual guidance. You can get 2 general readings for $100 or 3 readings for $150. You save a total of $30. Each session is 1 to 1.5 hours, includes mediumship, and goes deep into your questions, your energy, and your loved one's messages. If you want consistent guidance and real answers, DM me to reserve your bundle or email me at keishasreadings@gmail.com or at thetruthshowchat@gmail.com. Can't wait to speak to you.